Welcome to this simulation game for emergency medical services systems. I will lead you through the game playing instructions. Singapore Civil Defence Force (SCDF) provides emergency services such as ambulance service and firefighting in Singapore. You play the role of SCDF in this game to manage an emergency medical service system. The area assigned to you is a major area of Singapore City and it has been divided into 104 grids as shown on the map below. The EMS system revolves around two main components, stations and ambulances. Ambulances are required to respond to the emergencies as they arise. They are allocated, maintained and operated from stations. The stations are built in various locations or grids on the map. In this game, you can only build stations in the grids with the red numbers. These grids are called candidate sites. You can only build one station in one grid. Over the course of the game, medical emergencies occur in different locations. Your task is to design and manage the EMS system appropriately. The goal is to provide timely response to emergency incidents, like responding within 11 minutes for at least 83% of calls. There are all sorts of medical emergencies over a long-term period, like 10 years, 20 years, or even more. You design and manage the system with a certain amount of capital budget. Capital budget does not replenish throughout the game. You can build upgradable stations with different ambulance capacities and costs. For instance, an upgradable station with one capacity costs $2 million. It can accommodate one ambulance at most. The total cost of larger station is higher than that of the smaller one. However, cost per unit capacity is lower than the smaller one due to economies of scale. The cost of upgrading a station is also dependent on the capacity to be added to the existing station. The larger the capacity expanded at a time, the lower the cost per capacity. The cost per ambulance is $100,000. One main concern of the designers is how fast the EMS system can respond to emergency calls. The response time can be broken down into two parts: activation time and traveling time. When an emergency call occurs, the EMS system will dispatch an ambulance to the incident location from its nearby station. Suppose that it will take a fixed activation time, like 1 minute, from the time that the emergency call is received to the start of the ambulance's journey. It is assumed that the traveling time of an ambulance from one grid on the map to its adjacent grid is 2 minutes. When an ambulance travels inside the grid where it is stationed, the travel time to an incident is 0. When the ambulance travels to the neighboring grids, the traveling time will increase. If the total response time is within a certain target, like 11 minutes in this game, it is considered a fast response. This requires the traveling time to be within 10 minutes. If an incident call is not responded by any ambulance when it occurs, the call is counted as lost. A station in a candidate site can provide timely service to incidents in a grid only if the traveling time is within a designated time, for example 10 minutes. In this case, we say that incidents in this grid are covered by the station. We assume that an ambulance can only be sent to a demand grid from a designated station. In other words, during the simulation, only a designated station can send ambulance to a certain demand grid. To simplify the game playing, a demand grid is automatically assigned to a nearby station and can cover the grid during simulation. The assignment policy depends on how you plan the location and the capacity of the new stations. The game will simulate the design and operations of an EMS system over 10 years. Each round of simulation covers 1 year. At the beginning of each year, you can build new stations in the candidate sites and/or expand existing upgradable stations, purchase new ambulances, and reallocate ambulances to different stations. After you make the design decisions, if any, the computer platform will simulate the incident generation and incident handling mechanisms during 1 year and provide several key performance indicators to measure the quantitative life cycle performance of the system. The objective of this game is to maximize the long-term incident coverage rate of the system, which is the total number of incidents responded in a certain period, divided by the total number of incidents occurred within the same period. Your decisions will be constrained by the total budget. There are several types of costs: cost to build or upgrade a station, cost to purchase ambulances, operation and maintenance costs of ambulances and station in each period, as well as cost to assign one demand grid to a station. The assignment cost will be automatically calculated by the computer platform. You should carefully plan your budget to maximize the overall coverage rate. There are several things to consider in this problem. Firstly, you need to take a short-term view. You should consider how to best allocate ambulances in response to emergency calls in the current year. Secondly, you also need to take a long-term view. The system should work well now and for a long time into the future. Since the infrastructure investments for the stations built are irreversible, once you invest money to build a station, it will be difficult to change its original design and location. Therefore, you need to consider how to appropriately allocate resources over a long-term period. In addition, since such a long time frame is considered, you should be aware that there are some uncertainties that affect your design. The main uncertainties to be considered in this system are the frequency and locations of emergency incidents. The incident rate on each grid will change over time, and we are not sure when and where incidents will occur due to uncertain factors, such as the shift in population demographics, varying traffic conditions, and many other factors. Now, let's get familiar with the game user interface. This game is played on a map depicting major areas in Singapore. It is divided into several grids. You can only build stations on the grids with red numbers. There is an existing fixed station with one capacity located in grid 3, which cannot be expanded. To simplify the simulation, it is assumed that incidents will only occur in these grids. The detailed user manual will be given to you in the following session. You can click on the History tab on the top of the game user interface to observe the historical data of incidents in each demand grid for the previous year. The number of incidents responded within 11 minutes, and the number of lost incidents in the previous year are shown on each demand grid. You can also find the historical information of incidents for all the past years that you have played so far by selecting the round of interest located right below the grid area. After selecting a particular round, the round number can be found on the historical information panel. The meanings behind the shorthand notations are also shown below the grid area. To help you quickly compare the density level of incidents that occurred in each grid, incident number ranges are represented by squares with different colors. Each incident level corresponds to a range of incident numbers. For example, Incident level 1 with the lightest colored square corresponds to the number of incidents which are between 0 and 1,000. Now navigate to the Forecast tab to observe the predicted number of incidents in each grid for the current year. Note that in general, forecasts are always inaccurate. Similar to the History tab, you can view the forecast for the future years by selecting the round number of interest right below the grid area. To view your game results and other indicators, navigate to the Indicators tab. The Indicators window consists of 4 charts. The first chart shows the coverage rate in each year. The red line in the chart shows average coverage rate up to last year. The second chart displays the total number of incidents responded in each year. The third chart shows the total number of lost incidents in each station in the previous year, which is the sum of lost incidents in the grids that were supposed to be responded by this station. The fourth chart displays the forecasted and historical total number of incidents in all grids. The performance indicators provide some information to help you devise the stations and ambulances deployment plan. A low coverage rate indicates there are not enough ambulances in the locations with high numbers of incidents. It can be improved by deploying more ambulances to these locations. If you deploy more ambulances, the operating costs will increase. But if there is a spike in operating costs but coverage rate does not improve accordingly, it may imply that the new ambulances are not sited in the locations with high incident density. You may consider redistributing the ambulances. However, your redistribution strategy is constrained by the capacity limits of the stations. It may also imply that you allocate too many ambulances in the locations with low incident density. To lower your operating cost, you can consider removing some of your ambulances. If the number of lost incidents for a certain station is too high, this implies that the ambulances of the station is not enough to respond to all demand grid cells assigned to it. You may increase the number of ambulances at the station if possible. In this gameplay, there are several things you need to pay attention. First of all, SCDF thinks the current service quality of the EMS system needs to be improved. Fast response rate should be increased and the lost incident number should be decreased. Therefore, more stations should be built and more ambulances should be deployed. You need to devise a deployment plan for stations and ambulances to deal better with uncertainty in emergency incidents, and take tactical and strategic views on this problem. Second, you don't have too much time for explicit quantitative analysis. You need to rely on the performance indicators and a holistic view of the system. For example, if you think the number of incidents may increase in certain areas, you can improve service quality by increasing station capacity and allocating more ambulances. However, your operating costs will increase accordingly. This is one of the many trade-offs you have to balance in this game. Thirdly, you do not necessarily have to do something in each round. Sometimes the best strategy is simply to wait. In addition, the coverage rate in each year depends on the number of incidents, which varies in each year. Thus, it is possible that you have made the right decision, but the average coverage rate drops. Last but not least, your time is limited. You need to finish the game within 10 minutes in each session. Good luck!